This is ASBR Boxing. I'm delighted to be joined by Elliot Grigg. As we're looking ahead now after Joshua Buatsi successfully beat Dan Aziz on points for the British and Commonwealth light heavyweight titles. So this video is all about what is next for Joshua Buatsi. 18 or no now, 13 KOs, just saw him outpoint Dan Aziz. It was a competitive fight, but I think there was make no bones about who won that fight. But we are not in reflection here, Elliot. We are looking ahead now as to what could be next for Joshua Buatsi. Maybe a few names obviously come straight to our both of our heads. It's instantly, but just the first question I kind of want to ask you, mate, is after that performance and win against Dan Aziz, what do you think is realistic for Joshua Buatsi in 2024? What level do you want to see him get to, and what level do you think he can get to this year?
Very interesting question, Paul. Thanks for your eloquent breakdown there. I think it's tough because you look at that fight tonight, and it's the British title, Commonwealth title. So let's not make any bones about it. This was a certain level. The Dan Aziz fights at, which I think is below world level. I'm not saying Buatsi fights below world level necessarily, but Dan Aziz does. And it was, like you say, it was quite a competitive fight. So I think realistically for me, I'd want to see Buatsi kind of fight someone maybe at that world level, around sort of top 10 world level, but I don't think top five necessarily yet, to be perfectly honest with you. I mean, there's not necessarily a stacked division. You've got the top two having kind of a load of names, but for me, I think Buatsi needs kind of a stiffer test, but I don't necessarily think he wants a doesn't want a championship test to my mind. He needs a kind of world level test, but one that he can kind of come through, frankly, rather than that's what I want to see from him actually for the rest of this year. Kind of build on this momentum, stay active, not just sit out the ring for a couple of years and then go and try and fight Beterbiev or Bivol, but actually stay active and build on this win tonight against a world level opponent, but a fringe world level opponent at that.
Yeah, mate, I can't really disagree with anything you said there. I think he showed that he is above these British and Commonwealth levels. We knew that though, didn't we? And you and I talked in our preview that Buatsi won the British title. He won the Lonsdale belt really early on in his career against Liam Conroy. The only reason he fought for it again is obviously because his career is kind of somewhat stagnated. And then obviously the Dan Aziz big undefeated London clash was it made sense, and he's come through that. Obviously, I agree with what you said, mate. I think he's shown that he's above that level. I think right now you've got to put him at European slash fringe world level. So we may as well get into a few names. We may as well start keep ourselves on UK shores here because we've got a hell of a lot of top quality light heavyweights in Britain. First name I want to throw out to you, and I'm throwing them at you first and foremost because this is the one I want to see the most. What about Joshua Buatsi fighting Anthony Yarde?
But yeah, good fight, great fight. I think I don't know whether I'm being sort of blinkered somewhat by how Buatsi took the fight to Dan Aziz tonight, but I do honestly think that if he tries to box and stays kind of at range and uses his hand speed and stuff against someone like Yarde, he can cause some problems or maybe like look for a points victory. But what he cannot afford to do is what he did tonight, which was bite down on the gum shield basically and start throwing shots against Anthony Yarde. Because I mean, he exchanged hooks with Dan Aziz tonight, came through that, but he starts doing that left hook exchange with Anthony Yarde. He's going over. I think. But I genuinely think that Anthony Yarde is stopping him. And I think he presents a very, very different problem to Dan Aziz we've seen tonight. I think he's quicker, he's got fast hands, heavy hands, and when he's motivated, he's got a good jab as well. And I think when he's motivated, Anthony Yarde, we've seen the sort of level he can operate at. So to be honest with you, I'll probably lean Anthony Yarde at the moment in that fight. I really do. Not to take anything away from Buatsi, but I lean like, the people that Yarde's fought. I mean, a lot of people have said, maybe rightly to be honest, that Yarde has fought Beterbiev, he's fought Kovalev, and essentially he's fought a load of people I've not essentially heard of. But you can tell obviously through those sort of fights that I think he's got enough to beat Buatsi. To be perfectly honest with you, I really do, and I'd actually lean towards Yarde, possibly by KO if Buatsi got his tactics wrong.
Mate, do you know what? You've kind of stolen my thunder there. I was hoping you were going to say after that you think Buatsi can win, but I actually agree with you, mate. I love Joshua Buatsi. I think he's a great fighter, but the way he fought that fight against Dan Aziz, if he did that, it worked against Dan Aziz, who's at a certain level, but if you do that against Anthony Yarde, you're going to get stopped, I think. However, I don't know if Buatsi would do that. I think he probably would change the game plan and the tactics. But it's a fight I really want to see. It's been talked about again for years and years and years, and then kind of hasn't been talked about as much. People want to see Callum Smith fight Anthony Yarde. But yeah, I'd love to see Joshua Buatsi, Anthony Yarde. I think that makes a lot of sense, and it's a fight that if we don't get it next, I think there's a high chance we could get that in 2024, provided we're seeing Queensbury and Matchroom working together. Hopefully, obviously, for the sake of that fight, Queensbury and Boxer and Sky can all work together as well. I mentioned there Callum Smith. He's another name, obviously coming in off that defeat, kind of he got well beat by Artur Beterbiev, which is no disgrace given how good Beterbiev is and how world class he is. What about that fight, Joshua Buatsi, Callum Smith? Is that a fight that tickles your fancy at all, or are you not interested in that one?
No, it does take my fancy, Paul, and I'm letting myself down here because, but I'm playing into your hands wonderfully. When I'm going to say actually that I still favour Callum Smith in that fight. I have to say, like again, the reason I look at it is this: if Buatsi does that left hook business again, is Callum Smith will get stopped. Callum Smith obviously he's got power, he can stop him, but I also think Callum Smith has got the levers and the size to also go against Buatsi boxing wise, whether he chooses to do that or not. I mean, he kind of didn't use those advantages against Beterbiev, but I don't think, or against obviously Canelo as we've seen, but I don't think Buatsi's not the same fighter who's going to stick on that pressure onto Callum Smith either. Kind of plays a bit into Callum Smith's hands. So I actually think over the course of that fight, I actually have Callum Smith beating Buatsi as well. To be honest with you, um, depending on how he kind of wants it, how Buatsi wants to take the fight, could be stoppage, could be KO, but I still think I don't see him. Honestly, I honestly don't see him beating Callum Smith either, Paul, to be perfectly honest with you. How about yourself?
Yeah, mate, again, don't want to discredit the performance we've just seen Joshua Buatsi put in against Dan Aziz or anything. And, on recency bias, you'd think, oh, Smith got obliterated. Buatsi looked good against Aziz. Yeah, I'm with you, mate. I think Callum Smith's a level above Joshua Buatsi at this moment in time. Whether or not Buatsi reaches that level that Smith has and becomes world champion in the future, or if that's a fight in a final eliminator for a world title, but should the belts become fragmented after, Beterbiev, Bivol, that remains to be seen. But at this moment in time, mate, I completely agree. I think Callum Smith would probably stop Joshua Buatsi for my mind. I mentioned there the undisputed clash that's going to go down. Rumors are that it should. Well, I hope it doesn't happen. But if Buatsi sits on the sidelines, is he in a good position with the governing bodies that he could well get the winner of that fight or fight for a vacant belt, maybe. Should the belts go their separate ways after that clash? Is that something you're interested in? If you're Joshua Buatsi, do you sit in the sidelines and wait for the winner of Bivol? Beterbiev, I think you're high up in the WBA, so do you wait for your shot at Bivol and hope that that fight with Beterbiev doesn't happen? What are your thoughts there, or are you just thinking? I can see from the smirk on your face. Are you just thinking no?
I'm thinking no, mate. I really am. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think if he fights Bivol, there's a chance that Bivol will just cruise to one of his UD victories. So it may not necessarily be career or it sounds grim to say this, life shortening. But when you fight like Beterbiev, I think he'll just run through. But I really think he'll just run through Buatsi. And like, I'm not. That's no discredit to Buatsi either. But I just think again, I don't think he's got the power necessarily to keep Beterbiev off. Like as I'm showing what we saw tonight with Dan Aziz, where he hit him flush with the hook several times, didn't necessarily move him. Not going to move Beterbiev in that case. And Beterbiev, if he hits you, it's not. We know what happens. So I just simply see him sticking that pressure on Buatsi. I see Buatsi going backwards trying to box him, but I see him getting caught. So yeah, I mean, you'd have to take the Bivol fight if you're offered it. Obviously, wouldn't you'd have to take it because it's a world title opportunity. If he comes through that and you've got the chance to actually get a world title, you're going to say yes to it. But Beterbiev, I'd be going. You're going to be 40 possibly by that point, maybe even 41 if there's rematches and whatever else is going on. So hope he either maybe wins that and sails off and retires, and then you maybe fight someone else for Bacon or fight Bivol. But I wouldn't want any piece of Beterbiev, frankly, if I was Buatsi. He's not ready for that. Not many people are ready for that, but he definitely isn't ready for it either.
Yeah, 100%. I don't want to see him fight either Beterbiev or Bivol. And to be quite honest with you, I don't think that will happen because obviously it looked like His Excellency has got them together to fight on the undisputed clash on June 1st, in Saudi Arabia. So yeah, if I'm Joshua Buatsi, I'm calling out that Anthony Yarde fight. That's the one for me. If I'm Joshua Buatsi, I want next. Again, you can sell it. Good narrative. All British clash again. Yeah, it makes total sense for me. Plus, you think, Yarde fought for world honours twice. Joshua Buatsi wants to fight for world honours. Come through someone like Anthony Yarde, who is just below that world level or at that fringe world level, then you deserve a world title shot. So I think it makes sense for Joshua Buatsi. Plus, if you're Anthony Yarde, yeah, I think you're confident you win that fight as well. That's unfortunately,
Do you know who I think he should fight? Genuinely, this is a bit of a left field shout. He's not a seller, but he's a guy who's fought for a world title, and it's a British fight, fought for world level. Lyndon Arthur. I think Lyndon Arthur, Joshua Buatsi actually would be a good stepping stone for Buatsi. A winnable fight. Guy's been at world level, but I don't necessarily see it happening. So I don't think Lyndon Arthur's a ticket seller. I'm not sure Buatsi gets excited by it, but I think that's of the sort of fight that he should be having next, rather than sort of going in and getting stopped by Anthony Yarde.
yeah, I think that's the most winnable fight that we've mentioned, the Lyndon Arthur one. Again, do I make Buatsi a favourite? I don't know. It's a close fight to call. I give Lyndon Arthur a good chance there against Buatsi, but on the same point, I could say Buatsi, yeah, you give him a chance against Lyndon Arthur. So we shall see, mate. Of them all, yeah, that probably I give him the most chance of winning. But yeah, as I mentioned, for my mind, I want to see the Yard fight. That's the one from selfish perspective, want to see next. Guys, unfortunately, that's all we've got time for. We could talk for another 20 minutes on what's next for Joshua Buatsi. But yeah, that's all we've got time for. What do you think should be next for Joshua Buatsi after he beat Dan Aziz? Do you want to see him fight Anthony Yard? Do you want to see him fight Callum Smith, Lyndon Arthur, someone else in Britain? Or do you want to see him take that step up and fight for world honours, perhaps Bivol or Beterbiev? Let us know in the comments, guys, how you think he fares against all of those names and who you want to see him fight next. Elliot, appreciate your time as always, mate. Enjoyed that one, and I'll speak to you again soon.
Brilliant, Paul. And guys, thank you for watching as always. Good night.